Hi guys. So tonight I will be going through the lesson study, the Sabbath school, the Adventist Sabbath school lesson study, and this is the quarter, the the July to September 2025 quarter of the Adventist Sabbath school quarterly. And what I'm going to look at in this lesson, where I'm looking at lesson 2, but guys, lesson 2 is already gone. But I'm going to just go over these topics with you. So I'm going to look at lesson 2 of the Adventist quarterly for September to from July, first July to September 2025. So this is the Adventist quarterly that I'm going to look at for, I'm going to share with you. And we are looking at the story of Moses. The Moses was chosen by God to go to Pharaoh to tell Pharaoh to let his people go. So this is the story I'm going to look at. Lesson 2 of the quarterly for July to September 2025. And I'm going to turn to page 12. The burning bush. The burning bush. So this quarterly lesson 2, is the burning bush. Do you know anything about the burning bush? Well, that is in the story of Moses, and that is what we're going to discover tonight. We are looking at. So let us look at the memory text for this lesson this lesson. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their cry because of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, so I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. So, if we know the story of the children of Israel when they were in Egypt under Pharaoh's bondage, they were in Egyptian bondage for 400 plus years. And God saw the affliction. He saw how Pharaoh treated his people. And he said, it's time for me to deliver them. But before God delivered his children, the children of Israel, he had provided a way out. He had provided a way out. If you know the story of Moses at that time, they were going around. The Pharaoh was killing off all of the children when the Israelites women have babies. What Pharaoh instructed, he instructed the midwives, when the Egyptians have any baby, he must kill them, especially if it is a boy baby. He told the midwives, anytime the Israelite women have baby to be delivered, he must kill them, kill the babies, especially if it was a male child. So what happened? The children of when the midwife saw that what the midwife did not obey Pharaoh, because she saw it as a cruelty to be killing off so much young babies. So they did not follow the instruction of the of Pharaoh. So when the Israelites have their baby, because they were saying, Pharaoh was saying that the children of Israel were going to outnumber them. So the Egyptians thought at the growing rate of how the Israelites women were having, conceiving and having children. Pharaoh thought that one day the Israelites are gonna, outnumber them and take over the land and even come and fight them. So because of that fear, the Pharaoh instructed the midwives, anytime the children of Israel, anytime they have babies, anytime they're ready to give birth, he told the midwives to kill the male child, especially the male child, because if the male child die, then the female can't get pregnant. But the midwives disobey Pharaoh's instruction. So when the Pharaoh saw that the midwife disobeyed their instruction, what he did, he sent soldiers at the house to go in every home of the children of Israel, to go at their home and kill their babies. So what Moses' mother had to do, Moses' mother and his sister Miriam had to take Moses and put Moses in a boat. Put Moses in a little, not a boat, in a little basket. And when they put him in the basket, they put him along a little river, not knowing if anything in the river gonna eat him. They were just trying to hide him so that fear don't kill Moses. So they put him in a little boat and put him and in the river, in a little you kind of like a basket, and put him in to go in the river. But God was on Moses' side, because Moses was gonna be the deliverer of Israel. So what God did, when Miriam, Moses' sister, and his mother leave him in the river in the little boat, luckily that Pharaoh's sister and her maiden was having a bath in the river, and they came across the little basket, and she instructed her maids to go and look. And when they realized, they came back, it was a baby. And Pharaoh's sister took Moses as his child and grew Moses, grew Moses until Moses became a big man, became an adult. So you see what God did? God sent Moses deliverer, and how Moses had to come. Moses came as a child. So that was, God was already making a way for the children of Israel by sending a deliverer, which was Moses. And Moses was grown up in the same palace in Pharaoh's household. Pharaoh not even know that Moses was not an Egyptian. If Pharaoh had known that Moses was an Israelite, he would have killed him at that baby age. So his sister hide it from Pharaoh, fearing that Pharaoh is gonna kill the young child. So Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace. And what happened to Moses when Moses killed a Egyptian? He had to flee. He had to flee Egypt and went into the wilderness. And when Moses went into the wilderness, that was the time that God was going to train Moses in the work that God had for him to do. So Moses fled into the wilderness, and he stayed in the wilderness for 40 years. God was going to train Moses, and the work that he was going to do to be the deliverer, to go back to Egypt and to tell Pharaoh to let his people go. So sometimes God have to isolate. When God want to use us, when God want to use us, he have to isolate us so he can train us, so that he can train us, so the Holy Spirit can teach us what to do. So Moses went into the in one of the Midianites land, and there he met his wife and his father-in-law, and he got married and have sons. So, but while Moses was there, that was the beginning of, in the wilderness, was the beginning of God's training Moses and the work that he had to do to deliver the children of Israel. So let us get right story now. God's call us God's call to us will often changes the direction of our lives. However, if we follow that call, then we discover that God's path is always the best route for us. However, sometimes at first it isn't easy to accept God's call. Such is the case for Moses and his call by God, which specifically began begin all the at the encounter with the Lord at the burning bush. So Moses first encountered God at the burning bush. That was Moses' first encounter during his time of God's training him. It was at the burning bush. So Moses first encountered God at the burning bush. Although Moses may or may not have known about the laws of combustion, he knew that what he was seeing was a miracle. He knew that what he was seeing was a miracle, and it certainly caught his attention. No question, the Lord was calling him to a specific task. The issue was, would he answer the call? Regardless of the radical new changes in his life that this call would bring. At first, he was not very representative of it. So at first, Moses was never welcome of that call. You may recall instances when you had specific goals. So you can encounter, whether in a classroom at work where they call you up to make a presentation, or they call you to go on a mission, and you was fearful because you doubt yourself. I say, I can't go up there and face the crowd. I can't make the speech. I'm nervous. I'm afraid. What will people think about me? I'm not so eloquent in speech. My speech is slow. So was Moses. Moses was afraid to go back to Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let his people go, because he wonder if they would, if he was not eloquent enough. He couldn't talk that much to persuade Pharaoh. So he doubted. Moses said, I'm not, my speech is not good. So Moses found all the excuse and tell God all of these excuses, because at first Moses did not want to go. It is just like us. When God is telling us to make some change in our life, or when God wants to use us, we find all the excuses. We say, is this God talking to me? Is that God talking to me? God know that I can't speak well. God know that I can't, those people hate me. God know that I'm not equipped enough, and you find all kind of excuses not to go. So sometimes when God wants us to do certain things, we find we make doubt, we make fear, we make shyness, we make nervous take a hold of us, and we don't want to go. But Moses was chosen, and he had to go. He had to go to Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let God's people go. So Moses find a lot of excuse not to go. So you and I may recall instances when you had specific goals, but God redirect those plans. So me and you, we might say, all right, my goal is to go back to school, go back to, to educate myself, to get a better job, and then God is calling you to ministry. God is calling you to go on missionary, go to do a missionary to tell his story. So you say, no, man, this is not what I want to do. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to do all kind of things. So God might be calling you to fulfill his purpose, to go on a mission, to help bring the gospel throughout the world. So sometimes the choices that we make in life, or the things that we do, is not God's will for our life. And when we don't follow the will of God, and we take it upon ourselves and go and do what is, because let me tell you guys, each of us that is on this earth, God knew us from the womb. God know what we were gonna be. God know what we were gonna do. He know if we're gonna be a teacher. He know if we're gonna be a lawyer. He know if we're gonna be a nobody. He knows from the womb. And God's purpose for us to do his will. And his will is that if his will is for you to be a teacher, if his will for you to be a doctor, if his will for you to go be a minister of the gospel, whatever his will, and if you don't fulfill that will and you're going to take it upon yourself and do your own thing, sometimes we go and we do some things. God did not want us to be a doctor. God did not want us to be maybe to be whatever a profession that you may go or something that you do. That was not God's calling for your life, and you decide, say, no, I'm not going to follow that instruction. God is telling you to do service for him, or God is telling you to do something else and you don't want to do it, so you follow, this is what I want to do. And sometimes we go ahead and do what we want to do, and we meet our untimely death. We meet problem with people, we meet problem everywhere. So when we don't do what the will that God has for us, and we don't follow God's instruction and seek God's guidance in going forth and in whatever we do, when we don't say, God, I want you to lead my life, I'm going to do this, is this your will for my life? When we take up things on ourselves, we don't know what we are doing because we don't see what tomorrow may be. And what happened? We end up in a situation so bad that we could even lose our life. We could become mental. So Moses did not ever dream of going back to Egypt after he killed an Egyptian. Moses was never his intention to deliver the children of Israel. And when God called Moses, it was a very difficult task. You say for me and you to deliver a whole nation out of a country, because remember at the time Egypt was one of the most civilized country in the world. Every country, just like America, everybody is looking to America and say America is the what do you call it, America is the world power. Everybody is going to America. Everything is America. At that time, Egypt was the most civilized country in the world. Egypt was where everybody was going to. When there's famine, everybody come to Egypt for food. So, and Egypt was the first civilization. Let me teach you history. Egypt was the first civilization in the world. Happened. Moses, it was a very task. It was not a good task. It was not a very good task. It was not a very good task. Anybody, I can imagine Moses to go on such a journey to deliver a whole nation, to go in front a big powerful, like you say, big powerful Trump, a big powerful man like Pharaoh at the time, and say, let my people go. Pharaoh would laugh after me. I don't know how to persuade him. I am a man, a lack of how to speak. I don't have a speech impediment. I can't go. Use somebody else. So sometimes we turn away from what God wants me to do because of fear, because of we lack fear. We're nervous because of fear, because we are nervous, because we are shy, because we doubt ourselves, and we don't do the will that God has for us. So can happen to any of us, as it happened to Moses. So let us look at what Moses did. Did Moses really went down to Egypt, or did Moses disobey God? Let us go further into this story. You may recall instances when you had specific goals, but God redirect those plans. It is true that we can be useful to God in many ways, but following God's call in our lives and doing what he lead us to do is surely the path to the most satisfying existence. When we follow God's path, it is the most fulfilling or satisfying existence. It's not always going to be easy. And it wasn't easy for Moses, but how foolish to go our own way when God is calling us in another direction. So, how foolish it would be. So, we're looking at the burning bush. What did Moses see at the burning bush? After Moses fled to Midian, he had a relatively easy life. He married and had two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. That was the name of Moses' two sons. and was part of the extended family of Jethro, his father-in-law. And Jethro was a priest in Midian. He spent 40 relaxed years in Midian. He spent 40 relaxed years being a shepherd. So when Moses flee Egypt, after he was grown up in the palace of Egypt, he fled to Midian and he was a shepherd. Moses was a shepherd when he fled Egypt and went into Midian, and there he met his wife, and he had two sons, and his father-in-law. His father-in-law Jethro was a priest in Midian. So he had 40 years in which God was going to train Moses, 40 relaxed years to think about for God to train him. Yet this time was not simple for Moses. To smell the flowers, or perhaps in this case, this desert cactus. These years of walking with the Lord change him and prepare him for a leadership role. These years prepare Moses for a leadership role. Yes, prepared him for. God also used Moses in this quiet wilderness to write under divine inspiration two of the oldest biblical books. Wow, I didn't even know that, guys. During these times in the wilderness of the Midianite was when Moses wrote his first two books. Can you imagine that? So it was in this desert that the Lord, so it was, let us read it. These years of walking with the Lord changed him and prepared him for a leadership role. God also used Moses in this quiet wilderness to write under divine inspiration two of the oldest biblical books, Job and Genesis. Did you know that Job, the book of Job and Genesis, was the two oldest book in the Bible? You might say you might say it is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, but Job, the book of Job and the book of Genesis was written before the book of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. So you are learning something. I am learning something, that the two oldest book in the Bible was the book of Job and the book of Genesis. So so the book of Genesis and the book of Job. All right, so we're going to look at Moses also received from God crucial insights about the great controversy, the creation. So during this time, God revealed to him what happened in the creation. Remember, is Moses that write the book of Genesis, and Moses was not around in Adam and Eve's time. So how did Moses know about the creation to write it in Genesis? But it was in the wilderness, or when he was in Midian, that God gave him the inspiration and told him to write about what happened in the beginning. So Moses received from God crucial insight about the great controversy, the creation, the fall, the flood, the patriarchs, and most important, the plan of salvation. So remember, Moses was not around during Adam and Eve's time. He wasn't around during the flood. He wasn't around through the fall, when Adam and Eve fall. He wasn't around during the flood. He wasn't around during the patriarchs' time, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He wasn't around during those time. But he wrote the book of Genesis, and all of these books talk about from the beginning to those time. So God gave him insight in what happened in the beginning. That was why Moses could have wrote those things, that what happened in the beginning. And it was in the land of the Midian when he flee Egypt and he went into the land of the Midian. That is when he wrote his two book, the book of Genesis and the book of Job. Thus Moses was instrumental in passing on to all humanity the true knowledge of the living God, our creator and sustainer, and knowledge about what God is doing in view of the sin that has wreaked havoc on this planet. Biblical and salvation history make little sense apart from crucial foundation that under inspiration Moses gave us, especially in the book of Genesis. So we're gonna read what significant what significance can be found in the fact that the Lord introduced himself to Moses? So God introduced himself to Moses through the burning bush as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So God revealing to himself to Moses and let him know that he is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Moses saw that the burning bush was not being consumed by the fire. So even though the fire was there and the bush was burning, the bush was not being consumed. The bush was not being consumed by the fire. The fire was there, but the bush was not being burned. So Moses saw that the burning bush was not being consumed by the fire, and thus he knew that he was seeing a miracle and that something dramatic and important must be taking place right before his eyes. As he moved closer, the Lord told him to take off his shoes off as a sign of deep respect because God's presence made the place holy. So when Moses saw the burning bush, Moses get curious and say, but the bush not been consumed. The bush is burned, the fire there, but the bush not burned. So Moses know when to look to see what was really happening. Something drastically is taking place in my eyes. Let me see what is happening. So when Moses went up, the Lord said to Moses, take off your shoes because the place where you stand is holy ground because the presence of the Lord was there. So God was revealing himself to Moses at that time. God was revealing himself to Moses because Moses had doubt. Moses had doubt to go to Egypt. So God was trying to let Moses know that he was with him, that he is the God of all gods, and that he has not to fear because he's the God of the creator of heaven and earth. And while he's with Moses, no harm will take him. You will be with him. You will give him the speech that he need. You will tell him what to say to fear, so he must not fear. So God was trying to, to make Moses feel comfortable, take away the nervousness, take away the fear. So that he could go on the mission as the deliverer to deliver God's people out of Egypt. Thus the Lord presented himself to Moses as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. The Lord had promised patriarchs, the Lord has promised his forefathers that their descendant would inherit Canaan. So listen, this is very crucial. They know where we know as Canaan in the Bible. Maybe the land that we know as Canaan in the Bible now is called a different name in these times. So God has promised the children of Israel, God has promised Moses' forefather, that is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they would inherit Canaan. Canaan now, maybe Canaan now is Israel in today's time, the land of Israel now, or maybe Canaan now is Palestine. I don't know. So some people are fighting about the rights. This land was given to me. This land was given to me from back in my forefathers. So this land is rightful, belongs to me. So I'm fighting for this land in these times. But what we are saying here, that the Lord had promised. So the Lord presented himself to Moses as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, the Lord had promised these patriarchs that their descendant would inherit Canaan. So God had promised the children of Israel that the land of Canaan would belongs to them. A promise Moses surely knew about. So Moses knew about this promise. Thus, even before saying it, God was already opening the way for Moses to know what was coming and what crucial role he was going to play. So God was letting Moses know the purpose for which he is calling, the purpose for the mission that he was going. God was enlightening Moses to let Moses, it's going to be a hard task for him to do, but he was the best one that God could choose to do. So God know, when God choose, God know that you can do the job, because if you can't do the job, God wouldn't choose you. So God chose Moses because God know that Moses can do the job. Because when God call us, he equip us. When God call us to do anything, he will equip us. Our shortcomings, he will equip us with our shortcomings. So we have no need to fear when God calls us to do a certain task for him, or to go on mission, or to do his will. We need not to fear. If we are afraid, if we make fear, if we make shyness, if we make nervous take us, we say, Lord, I want to do your will. I want to do service for you, but I want you to take away the nervousness, take away the shyness, and take away the fear, and give me give me that, help me when I speak, that when I speak a mouth with words that it will, when people hear, when people hear, my speech, let it be you that is speaking in me, and not me speaking. Let it be you that's speaking through me, so others can see you in me, so others can, make it be your voice, not my cracking voice, not my hoarse voice, not my voice that not sound good, but let it be you. So sometimes, instead of murmuring and say we can't, ask God to equip us in our shortcomings, whatever it is that is standing in the way, whatever we think we are not fit to do, we're not capable to do, ask God to equip us, and he will equip us for his service. Guys, press the like. As you come on, press your like, press the like, press the subscribe button, guys. Press the like, press the subscribe button. Please comment also, guys. So what God did, thus even before saying, God had already opened the way for Moses to know what was coming and what crucial role he was going to play. So the angel of the Lord appeared to Moses in flames of fire from within a bush. It was the Lord Jesus himself speaking to Moses from within the bush. Do not be confused with the title angel of the Lord as a depiction of Jesus Christ. The term angel itself simply means messenger, and it also depends on the context whether this angel is to be interpreted as human or divine. So God can send an angel during the time, or he can send a human being to carry his message. Whatever message God want at that time, he could have sent an angel, or he could send a prophet, he could send a human being to deliver his message to his people. So there are many instances in the Bible where the angel of the Lord refers to the divine person. Thus, this angel of the Lord not only speak in the name of the Lord, but the Lord himself. Jesus is God's messenger to communicate the Father's word to us. So we're going to look at, how did God explain to Moses why he wanted to intervene on behalf of the Israelites enslaved in Egypt? So how did God explain his mission to Moses? How did God explain to Moses why he wanted to use him to intervene on behalf of the children of Israel that were enslaved in Egypt? How did God explain why he was the best choice? Why he chose him? The suffering of God's people in Egypt is colorfully described as a groaning and deep cry for help. The children of Israel was going under crucial suffering. They were suffering, they were dying from hard work. They were whipped, they were beaten, they were treated bad, lack of food. So the children of Israel cry out to God, and God remembered his promises that he made to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. God did not forsake his people. God remembered his people. And when the season, sometimes we are, sometimes guys, we say we are going through some things and we say, Lord, I've been praying for this, I'm going through this pain and this torture, and I'm going through some struggles. How you take so long to come to my rescue? The children of Israel might have been saying, oh, you take so long. We have been calling out to you, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, oh God of our forefathers, where are you? Deliver us from this bondage. And they were crying out to God for 400 and odd years. They were crying out to God. But when the time is right, God will make it happen. God does nothing. God works in season, and this was the season because he was training up somebody. He was gonna bring forth a deliverer, and he was gonna train them to do that work, because he know that Pharaoh was not gonna be willing to give up the children of Israel. God know that it would be a very hard task. So the person that he was gonna use has to be trained. The person that he was gonna be used have to be fully equipped to go on a difficult mission like this, dealing with a heartless Pharaoh. A man that did not fear God but worship idols. A man that thought himself to be God on earth. How would he listen to Moses when he think of himself as a God? In Egypt, they have the God of the sun, the God of the moon, the senior God, the river God. They have all kind of God. Egypt was full of gods. God of fertility, all kind of gods they have at that time. So God know it was going to be a very difficult time for Moses, but nothing is impossible for God. Nothing in this earth is impossible for God. So God was training Moses. So although the children of Israel are crying for help, we have to wait on God's time. And when the time is right, God will make it happen. So Moses was well trained and equipped to go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. So the suffering of God's people in Egypt is described as groaning, a deep cry for help. God heard their cry and was concerned. Yes, and he called them my people. That is, even before Sinai and the ratifying of the covenant, they were his people, and he would cause them to dwell and prosper if they would obey in the land of Canaan, as he had promised their fathers. God said to Moses that he was sending him to Pharaoh for a specific task. So now go. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh. So he said, God said, so now go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelite, out of Egypt. So God said, go, Moses, go now. I'm sending to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. I've heard their cry, I've seen their suffering, and it's high time for them to be freed from that bondage. What a task God presented to his servant Moses. What a task God presented to his servant Moses. A hard task, a very hard task. God therefore responded with a question: who am I? So when Moses was considering, this is a very hard task for one man to do. God said to Moses, who am I? Who I am the I am that I am. That is grasping the significance of what is going to happen and what his role is going to be in all this. Moses wondered why someone like himself would be chosen. Why would God choose me to do a task like this? And he wondered, what's special about me? So that's what he said to himself. Here, here early on, we have an indication of his character, his humility, and his sense that he is unworthy of what he was being called to do. Moses was feel that he was unworthy of what God was calling him to do. Moses think that he was not. He lose self-confidence. He did not think that he could carry such tasks. Therefore, he tried and give God all kind of excuse not to let him go. Moses said, I can't speak properly. I have speech impediment. That I can't do this. I can't do that. And he found all kind of excuse not to go. So even though Moses was a man of God, just like us, we look at Moses as a great a man of God, but Moses had fear. Moses had doubt, just like us. We have doubt sometimes. We have fear. We find excuse. You understand? So we have something in common, which all humanity have in common. These things come upon us, but God is able to equip us. God is able to equip us in anything that he said he wants us to do. If God did not think that we could do it, he wouldn't call us to do it. So we're going to look at the name of the Lord. What is the name of the Lord? Moses did not know what the name of the Lord was. So God is revealing himself to Moses for the first time. Because when Moses was living in Egypt under Pharaoh's rule, he did not know the God of Israel because he was taught in Egyptian philosophy. He was taught in Egyptian speech. At one time, he grew up among the many gods of Egypt. He did not know God until he fled Egypt and went into the wilderness. Then he know that this is the God of his forefathers. He know who the real God of the world was. So God is going to let Moses know his name. God presented himself to Moses as Elohim, which literally means I will be who I will be. I am who I am. I am that I am. In Exodus 3 verses 12, God uses the same verb, Eloi, as in verses 14. When he stated to Moses, I will be with you, it means that God is eternal. God is eternal. He is the transcendent God. He's a transcendent God, as well as as he is a transcendent God. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. He's an eminent God, and he dwells with those who are contrite and humble in spirit. So God dwells with those that are contrite and humble in spirit. Guys, please, you share the like. Before if you're gonna leave, please press the like button, comment. I wish for you guys to stay and listen to the word of God, because sometimes we don't go to church and we don't know some of these things that are in the Bible. We don't know. So press the like, please join and leave a comment. So the proper name of God is Yahweh. Did you know that the proper name of God is Yahweh? It's translated in English Bible usually as the Lord, was known to God's people. So Yahweh was the name of the God that the children of Israel know. Yahweh was known to God's people from the beginning, even if they didn't know it its deeper meaning. Moses also knew the name Yahweh, but like others, he did not know the real meaning. So Moses did not know the real meaning of Yahweh. He knew the name, but he did not know the meaning of Yahweh. So Moses did not know the meaning, the deep meaning. Moses also knew the name Yahweh, but he, like others, he did not know the real meaning. His question, "What is your name?" So Moses, now when God insists that he has to go to Egypt, Moses said, "I am going to Egypt, and you're telling me to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Suppose Pharaoh asks me, what is the name of your God? I don't know your name." So God said to Moses, "My name is Yahweh." So Moses asked God what is his name. So in case Pharaoh asks him, "Who is your God?" he have a name to tell him. So Moses asked him, "What is your name?" Is a query about the deeper meaning. A hintful hit is in Exodus 3, verse 6 verses 3, where God stated, "I appear to Abram, appear to Isaac, and I appear to Jacob as God Almighty." So God is telling Moses that he had appeared to Abram, he appeared to Isaac, and he appeared to Jacob, and he's appearing to him also. So these forefathers know God. So he said, he said to Moses, also known as God from the beginning. So he said to Moses, "By my name, the Lord, I did not make myself fully known to them." So God is saying to Moses, "I appeared to Abram, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty. But by my name, the Lord, I did not make myself fully known to them." It does not signify that Adam, Noah, Abraham, and the patriarchs did not know the name Yahweh. They knew the name Yahweh. It means instead that they did not know the deeper meaning of Yahweh. They only know Yahweh. His name Yahweh points to the fact that he is a personal God, the God of his people, the God of the covenant. He is a close, intimate God who intervenes in human affairs. The Almighty God is the God who miraculously intervened by his power. But Yahweh is a God who demonstrates his moral power by love and care. He is the same God of Elohim, mighty, strong, transcendent God, the God of all people, the ruler of the universe, the creator of everything. But different aspects of his relationship to humanity are revealed by the name Yahweh itself. Knowing the name or calling on God's name is not something magical. It is about a proclamation. It is about his proclaiming in his name, proclamation of his name, which means teaching others the truth concerning this God and the salvation that he offers to all who come in faith. As Joel says, "Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." Everyone that calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. In what ways in your own life have you experienced the closeness and intimacy with Yahweh that he seeks to have with all who are surrendered to him? So the question is, in what way have you experienced the closeness of Yahweh that he seeks to have with each of us? Have you experienced the closest? Do you know what it to be to have a personal or a relationship with God? Do you know what it is to have that personal walk with him? Do you know what it is to be called a friend of God? Do you know what it is to know that you can rest assured that God is pleased with you, that God is on your side. Yes, it's a very good feeling. It's a very good feeling, guys. So we are going to look at Wednesday's lesson. The four excuses. We're going to look at where you all, guys, we're going to look at the four excuses that Moses gave. So we're looking at the four excuses that Moses gave when he did not want to go to Egypt as God called him to go to deliver his people. What what set of signs did God give to Moses to perform in order to strengthen his position as God's messenger? So God gave Moses some signs to strengthen Moses, so that Moses, the nervousness, the shyness, and the fear that he have. So God, the first one was the burning bush. God was revealing to him. God said that Moses was nervous and was afraid. So God was strengthening Moses, so make him have confidence that to trust him, that when he send him on this mission, it won't be a failure. So God showed Moses some signs to encourage Moses, so Moses can have faith in the process. So Moses again tried to excuse himself from the task. So guys, are you hearing me? Moses again tried to excuse himself from the task God asked of him. He did not want to go to Egypt and confront Pharaoh. After all, he had already failed when he had previously tried on his own to help the Hebrews. Also, his own people did not believe in or accept him as their leader. Can you imagine? God is sending you to save somebody or a set of people that don't believe in you and don't accept you. But God is sending you to help them, to rescue them, to save them, and they don't believe that you're one of them. That's why he formulated a third objection. What if they do not believe me or listen to me? So first, Moses have an excuse. What, I can't go? What if you ask me what's the name of your God? So the next thing, he come on, he asks, I can't go. What if I go and the people them reject me? They don't believe that you send me. What if they don't believe? So Moses have a lot of doubt, so much doubt. So he formulated a third objection. What if they do not believe me or listen to me? This was not a question to learn something new. It was an attempt to say no to the responsibility that God asked him to undertake. Two miraculous signs are given to Moses to perform before the elders of Egypt and later before Pharaoh. One, his staff turning into a snake and then back into a staff, and his hand become leprous. Then but then instantly healed. So one of the sign when God was strength. So one of these signs, four signs, God. So these are some of the signs that God showed Moses that he was real, that he's the God, that he can trust him. God said, Moses, put your hand in your bosom. And when Moses put his hand in his bosom, and he took out his hand, he became leprous. And God said, put back your hand in your bosom. And when Moses put back his hand in his bosom, his hand come back as his normal skin color. So that was the first sign. The second sign God showed and give to Moses to encourage him, where he put the staff. He had a staff, we could call it a stick or a staff in his hand. And God said to Moses, and the staff turned into a snake, and then it turned back into a staff. So those were the two signs that God gave. Both miracles should convince the elders that God is at work for them. But these were two. So God, when Moses was gonna go, Moses had to go to the elders in Egypt, in Israel, to prove to them that God sent them. God was gonna tell Moses to go to the people of Israel that are in Egypt and show them these signs, so that they can know that they can believe him, because Moses said, what if they don't believe me? So God give Moses two signs to show the people by telling him to put his hand in his bosom, and when his hand went into his bosom, it came out as looking like leprosy, and when he put it back in, his hand came back in his color. And when he showed him the staff, and he had the staff in his hand, and he said, put down the staff, and the staff turned a snake, and when he took up the staff, it become the staff itself. So those were the two signs that God tell him to show to his people, to convince them, to believe him, that God sent him as the deliverer to deliver them. So this is it now. Although God gave Moses these mighty wonders, he still expressed another. So you can imagine, after God showed Moses all of these signs, appear at the burning bush, put all of this, still Moses had doubt. Moses come up with another excuse again. Although God gave Moses these mighty wonders, he still expresses another excuse. The fourth, he is not a good speaker. So the fourth one now, I think the second one, he said, what if Pharaoh asks me your name? That was the first one. What if the people don't believe me, that they believe that you send me? The third, I am not a good speaker. Moses said, I am not a good speaker. So Moses still had doubt after God showed him so much sign. He still had doubt. How does the Lord respond to Moses, and what lessons can we take from for ourselves in whatever situation we believe God called us to do? So here we can learn some lessons from Moses' reaction to God. We can learn that when God calls us to do anything, we should not have any doubt. We should not fear, because when he calls us, he will equip us to do his work. So we, in today's world, we have lessons to learn from the past, from these past man of God, from these outstanding leaders. We can learn an example from them, not to fear and doubt and question and whatever we have. Instead of having doubt, you say, Lord, you're going to send me on this journey, but I want you to equip me, because I don't have, I am nervous. I don't know how to speak properly. I don't know how to, I am shy. I'm afraid. What if people don't like me? What if people don't accept me? So we have to, God will protect us. God will equip us with whatever task. When he sends us, he's not going to send us in danger. So this set of 4 excuses show Moses reluctant to follow God's call. With reasonable objection, he masks his unwillingness to go. The first 3 excuses are in the form of questions. So we are looking at 4 excuses. 3 of the first 3 excuses was in the form of a question. So we are going to look at the 4 excuses now. 3 of them were in the form of a question. So we say that 3 of them was in the form of a question. Who am I? Was the first excuse that Moses gave. Who am I that you should send me? Why me? Why you pick me to go? Who am I? Number 2, who are you? Who are you that if the people should, if the Egyptian affairs should ask me, who are you? I should tell them who you are. The third, he asks, what if they do not believe me? So that was the third excuse Moses gave. And the fourth, I am not eloquent to go. I am not eloquent in speech. I don't know how, and I don't know how to persuade fear to let the people go. So those were the 4 questions, the 4 excuses that Moses gave, because he was reluctant to go on the mission that God called him to go. Then Moses delivered his fifth and final plea. Can you imagine that? Then Moses delivers his fifth and final plea and directly asks, "Oh my Lord, please send someone else." Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Can you ever imagine? First, he asks, "Who am I to go on such a mission? Who are you? Who are you? I am not. Who are you? What if they don't believe me? I am not eloquent." Then he plead and he's saying, "Please find somebody else. Please, I cannot go. Please." He plead with God. "Oh my Lord, please send someone else." In response, God tells him that he is already sending his brother Aaron to meet him for support. So what God did, since Moses didn't want to go alone, God sent Aaron. Aaron, his brother, Aaron was the priest. And he said, "All right, Aaron is gonna go with you, your brother. So if you are not eloquent in speech, I will give you the instruction, and you will tell your brother what I said, and the brother would appear before Pharaoh, and the brother would speak on your behalf. But I am instructing you what to say, and you'll give that instruction to your brother, and your brother will speak on behalf of you, since Moses might have been slow in speech. Maybe Moses was stammer. You know, when people stammer, maybe have some speech impediment, something like that. So God said, I'm going to speak. I'm going to tell your brother to go, and your brother will speak. So what I tell you, you will tell your brother, and your brother will tell Pharaoh. So 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 Moses silently conceded. So finally Moses silently conceded and asked Jethro for his blessing before departing for Egypt. So Moses went to his father-in-law and said, "No, I'm gonna leave for a while. I'm gonna leave my children and my wife. Send me on a special mission to deliver the children of Israel, and it's going to be a very hard task. So I'm asking you to bless me, to pray for me, so that I can have strength to go on this mission." So Moses asked his father-in-law Jethro pray to pray for him. So we're going to look at the circumcision. Exodus 4, verses 18 to 31. How do we understand this strange story, and what lessons can we take from it? What lessons can we take from this story of Moses? Moses' reaction. What lessons have you learned? If any of you can tell me, have you learned any lessons from this story? What lessons have you learned from the story about Moses and his encounter with God, about the mission? What can you take from this story in your own life? What for me? What I can take from this? If God is calling me to go on a mission, and God is gonna equip me. And I'm, instead of murmuring, instead of finding excuse, we don't have to ask God, say, "Lord, I want you to strengthen me this year. I want you to take away the fear, take away the doubt, take away the shyness, take away the nervousness, and equip me, so that when I go out there to do your work, it is you that is speaking through me, so it might come out expressively, so it can come out so somebody can understand what I'm saying, so as to persuade them to do what you want them to do." So that was what the action that Moses should have done. But like many of us, the first thing come to our mind when we hear about going on a task, and a hard task. The first thing that come to us as human is fear and doubting ourselves. So we have to sympathize with Moses. We have to sympathize with Moses, because it's just human nature. But then we can learn a lesson. from Moses also, that instead of when that fear come upon us, instead of complaining and murmuring and say, God, please send somebody else, say, Lord, you want me to go on this mission, please equip me to go on it. You know what I am going to, all the fears, doubt, and what and why I have these fears, all of it. Take it away and replace it with confidence, with bravery, with confidence, with boldness to go on, and willingness to go on your mission. That is what we can take from the story. So we are looking at the Thursday's lesson, the circumcision. Bible students are shocked when they read that after Moses obeyed the Lord and started his journey back to Egypt, the Lord was about. Did you know, guys? Guys, oh my God, this one shocked me. I wish a lot of you were on here to listen to hear this one, because maybe you never hear. I did not know that after all Moses' excuse and telling God to send him, when Moses was on his way with Aaron to do the mission, God was about to kill Moses. I was shocked. Why was God, after all of these, persuading the burning bush, putting the hand there and doing all of that, that God was going to kill Moses? What happened? After God got through the struggles and Moses was willing not to go, what did Moses do that God was about to kill him on his way to go to Egypt to deliver the children of Israel? Let us read. Bible students are shocked when they read that after Moses obeyed the Lord and started his journey back to Egypt, the Lord was about to kill him. If you read in Exodus chapter 4, verses 24. So if you don't believe it, go and look at Exodus chapter 4, verses 24 of the New International Version and read it for yourself. From the context of the story, it is evidence that the issue was circumcision. This was circumcision. God, for the children of Israel to leave Egypt, they would have to be, the male would have to be circumcised. Every one of them would have to be circumcised. Listen, I'm not even going to tell you, just listen. Moses, so listen, from the context of the story, it is evidence that the issue was circumcision. His youngest son was not circumcised. Moses' youngest son was not circumcised, as the Abrahamic covenant demands. The Abrahamic covenant demands that the male child should be circumcised. Moses was a leader. Moses was a leader, and if you are the leader, you must set the example. You cannot be telling people to go and circumcise their children when your child or your children is not circumcised. You first have to set the example. That is why, after God already go through all of that, and for Moses to go and on his way, God was about to kill Moses. God was about to kill Moses. And you read that in Exodus 4, verses 24. If you don't believe it, I am shocked. I am shocked also, guys. And it was about circumcision. Moses' youngest son was not circumcised, and God instruct Moses to let all the children, the young the boys, them must be circumcised before they leave Egypt. So Moses, as the leader of God's people, need to show his perfect submission and obedience to God. How can you be the leader and not obeying and certain submission and obedience to God? You have to show as a leader the submission to God and obedience to his command. He said all males should be circumcised. So when you're going around and telling and telling the children of Israel to circumcise their male child, and your second son is not circumcised, and Moses was unwilling to circumcise his second child. Listen now, listen how that go. All right. Moses, as the leader of God's people, need to show his submission and obedience to God in order to be qualified to lead other people to obedience. If you want to lead other people to obedience, you have to obey. You have to follow. You have to set the example. You have to live by example. He had to be a mother, a role model. He had of that total surrender to God. His wife, guys, his wife Zipporah was a woman of action, and circumcised her son in order to save the life of her husband. So when Moses was so unwilling to circumcise his second child, that his wife have to run. This wife Zipporah had to run and circumcise the child herself as a woman, because she saw that God was gonna kill Moses. God was gonna Zipporah run and circumcise their second son. Can you imagine? So there's so much stories that we can learn from God, as when God sent out us, whether we are pastors, whether we are Christians, sometimes we disobey God. Sometimes we are unwilling to do certain things. We are not perfect. We are not perfect. And Moses was a great man of God. And these are Christians to follow and to learn examples of, so that we don't make some of these mistakes. So the word of God said that his wife Zipporah was a woman of action and circumcised her son in order to save the life of her husband Moses. She touched Moses with the blood. So after, guess what? After he circumcised, after Jethro, after Zipporah went and circumcised the child herself, what she had to do, she touched Moses with the bloody foreskin. So the foreskin, after you circumcise the child, that foreskin that come off of the male penis, that foreskin, the blood. So what she did, the bloody foreskin, Zipporah had to touch Moses with that bloody foreskin. So the blood was placed on him. So when God see the blood, that he would save Moses' life, and this drawback, that blood was very important in that this story here of Zipporah taking the foreskin that he cut off of the child when he circumcises their second son, that foreskin with the blood, he touched Moses with it. So when God see the blood on Moses, that God wouldn't kill Moses. So this brought back my attention that blood was very crucial. Guys, like the video. If you have not liked it, press the like button. So this draw me that blood was very essential for the forgiving of sin, for disobedience, and for forgiving sin. Because if it wasn't for the blood of Jesus Christ when he shed on Calvary's cross, all of us would perish. All of us would die. So from Adam's sin till now, from Adam's sin, they have to offer sacrifice. They have to kill a lamb. They have to kill a sheep, a dove, whatever. Coming up to Jesus' time, they have to kill some sheep, some dove, until Jesus shed his ultimate blood. So blood was very important, so that God won't kill us. So he sent, without the blood, there's no shedding and forgiveness of sin and disobedience. That is why you see that blood was very important in saving God's people. So when Zipporah know a woman full of action, say, "Oh, God is gonna kill my husband." When maybe she was telling Moses, 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 go and circumcise our second born, but Moses was unwilling. Moses was unwilling. Zipporah have to run. His wife have to run with the child. And run with the child and circumcise the child and take the foreskin that come off of the child when they circumcise the child and put that bloody foreskin and touch Moses with it. So God would not, anger would go away because she was saving her husband. So you can see that Zipporah was a very good wife, one that feared God. So this is such a good story, so much lessons that we can learn from in this story. So we can see. So guess what now? She touched Moses with the bloody foreskin, and this blood represent atonement. So this blood, that the foreskin with the blood that she touched on her husband and Moses, represent atonement. Atonement for sin, atonement for disobedience. Atonement, it represents life and the sealing of the covenant. So the blood represents atonement, it represents life and the sealing of the covenant. The fact that it was done so quickly added to the drama of the situation. An important lesson can be learned from this episode. Never fail to do what we know is right. So the story is, even though God instructed Moses to go and tell the people to circumcise the male child supposed to circumcise. Moses thought himself, well, I am the ruler, so I'm above the law. I'm the God is not gonna strike my son, so I don't that don't go for my household. So Moses believed that because God had sent him and God had nobody else to send. He was the only one that could send. Moses said, well, God can't kill me because who is going to deliver the children of Israel? It's only me. There's nobody else. So God is not gonna. So if I don't circumcise my child, He's not gonna do him anything. He's not gonna do him anything. So maybe that was the attitude that Moses had. And some of us as leaders, we think that we are above the law. While we are telling the people to do this, we in our household are not following, living by example. Where as pastors, as Christians, we're not living by examples. We are not living by example, and Moses was not living by example. So because Moses think that he was above the law, above, and God can't find somebody to deliver, he's the only one. So, but God was gonna kill Moses because God is able. He said that I can take up these stones and turn them, and they can and take the stone and turn them and into human, because I created human. I can create somebody to go. So we can't believe, say, God can replace us. We're not supposed to get so high and mighty that we think that we are replaceable. God can replace us. He can take up stones and put breath in them, make them become men to go and do his work. And that was Moses' fault. That was what Moses. So an important lesson can be learned from this episode. Never fail to do what we know is right. Never fail to do what we know is right before the anger of God come upon us. So on the way from Midian, so listen, on the way from Midian, Moses received a startling and terrible warning of the Lord's displeasure. An angel appeared to him in a threatening manner, as if he would immediately destroy him. Can you imagine? Listen again if you don't hear this one. On the way, well, while they were leaving Midian to go on the way to Egypt, an angel appeared to Moses in a threatening manner. The angel was angry with Moses. In a threatening manner, the angel was angry, as if he would immediately destroy or kill him. No explanation was given. So the angel did not explain why. Moses should have known why. Moses should have, he didn't explain why he was in this manner and why he was gonna kill him. Moses should have known. Just as us as Christians, we have to search our lives, because sometimes we have sins that we don't even know we have. We have unknown sins. We have some thoughts that we don't even know is sin. Some things we are doing, we don't think it is sin. So maybe Moses did not think that was a sin for his child not to be circumcised, that God would kill him for just that little act. So he was unaware of why the angel would appear to him in such a manner. So Moses have to look back, and his step. So what Moses did know. So what happened? So here now, so as if so the no explanation was given. The angel did not explain why he was angry with Moses. But Moses remembered that he had disregarded one of God's requirement. So Moses is looking back in his life and say, why is this angel angry with me? Let me search my life. If he save my life, if there's some sin within me, if I'm disobeying God. And then Moses come to his senses and say, wow, I have not circumcised my second child. He had neglected to perform the rite of circumcision upon their youngest son. He had failed to comply with the condition by which his child could be entitled to the blessing of God's covenant with Israel. And such a neglect on the part of their chosen leader could not but lessen the force of the divine precept upon the people. Zipporah. So Zipporah, fearing that her husband would be slain, performed the rites herself. And the angel then permitted Moses to pursue his journey in his mission to Pharaoh. So what we are saying is that the angel appeared to Moses in an angry manner, and Moses couldn't continue the journey until his child was circumcised. So Moses could not continue the journey until his child was circumcised. So what we are seeing here, that he had failed to comply with the condition by which his child could be entitled to the blessing of God. The blessing, he had failed to comply. He had neglected on the part of their chosen leader could not be, but lessen the force of the divine precept upon the people. Zipporah, fearing that her husband would be slain, performed the rites herself, and the angel permitted Moses to continue his journey. In this mission to Pharaoh, Moses was to be placed in a position of great peril. His life could be preserved only through the protection of the holy angels. But while living in neglect of an unknown duty, so that means that if Moses was gonna go on this mission, he could have been killed by Pharaoh, because if he had stepped into Egypt to deliver God's people and he carried this sin with him, he had disobeyed God. God's presence was not going to be with him, and Pharaoh could have killed him. But while he obeyed the word of God, God had promised Moses that if he obey him, then he would send his angel to protect him, that Pharaoh would not harm him. So it is very important for us, especially as Christians, to be obedient to God's word, to obedient to his commands. So guys, this is where I'm gonna end this live video, and I just want to thank you guys for sharing. Thank you guys for those of you that come on to the live and listen. Thank you very much. And we're gonna have more of this, this Bible study with you guys. Thank you for the like, and I hope to see many of you, join this. We're gonna have some do a lot of likes, live video on this broadcast. We're gonna do a lot of more live on it, live Bible study with you guys. So I'm gonna end this video. Thank you for sharing, and I think next time we'll meet. I have this live again. I will try to do this on Thursday with you guys. Bye bye. Bye bye.